I love doing my bit for charity, and one way for me to do this is I make beanies using my knitting machine. It's a super fast way to do it, and it uses up all those bits and pieces that I've got. The yarn that I love to use the most in my knitting machine is a Premier anti-pilling yarn. I'm going to show you how to make them on a knitting machine. So the first thing on the machine that we're going to do is turn it until you can see the 3 black pegs. Okay, starting on the first peg, we're just going to hook the yarn underneath. I've got a tail of maybe about 50 centimeters. All right, then winding forwards with the Addi machine, you will skip the next stitch and hook it under the next one. Skip and hook it under, skip, hook it under. And you'll keep repeating, missing a stitch and hooking it under one until you are back at the start. This is called casting on. Once you get to your first 3 black ones, you make sure that the yarn is hooked under each one. Once you've got it hooked under each one, pop it into your guide and just close your guide and reset your stitch count to 0. Now, just holding your yarn in my hand, I do not hold it tight, I do not hold it loose, I just hold it consistently. You just start winding forward. And you continue winding until you've got about 60 centimeters left of yarn, or I would say a maximum of 140 rounds. With the Premier yarn, I generally will get between 130 to 140. So I will just go until I'm back at my black pegs and have about 60 centimeters of yarn left over. That's as simple as that. Start winding. When your arm gets tired, this is where the tips come in. So when the beanie is starting to touch the bench, just lift it up gently, just the ends of it without pulling it off the pegs, and just tuck it in so it's not touching. 100. Back to my starting. Okay, I have about 1 meter of yarn. I do not have enough to go around again and to cast off. So I just hook it onto my last black peg and just close my little yarn guide back again. So we're going to do 1 round and not passing where my yarn is. So we're going to do 1 complete round. This is preparing it for me to cast off. We're going to go all the way back around and we're going to stop just prior to where my yarn is, and we're going to thread my needle. Making sure that we don't pull it off the guide. We want about 60 centimeters of yarn. I'm actually going to give this a little snip so it doesn't get caught within itself. And that should be enough yarn for me to cast off. Okay, this is where my yarn is, and I'm going to start working into the next stitch along from my yarn, but I'm going to put my finger on top of the second stitch away from where my yarn is. And I'm going to insert my needle under the little loop that is onto the little peg and just lift. Okay, working to the next one, I'm going to move my finger along. And the reason why I'm putting my finger there is to stop the yarn from lifting off the stitch that I want to work in, which will then make your beanie unravel. Okay, when you get to a certain point, I just give it a little spin, not passing where I'm currently working at. Move my finger along. We're going to keep going like this until the last stitch. And the last one is that our beanie is now off the machine. All right, I'm going to close our end just by gently pulling the yarn along, just rolling it back out to make sure there's no rolls on it, and closing up the end. Okay, it's closing up one end. Put my hand up inside the beanie and pass the needle in through the hole. And I'm going to wiggle it along, folding the beanie so that it's being folded upon itself. You should be able to reach in and grab it and just keep shuffling it along until the 2 ends meet. Okay, there's our end there. And now we're going to pull the yarn on the other end, just straightening it out a little bit. Shuffling it so the two pieces meet. Nice and tight. I just cut my yarn here. Now you can tie it off. Attach your pom-pom. Hide your ends inside your beanie. Attach the pom-pom. I use the button. I recently got introduced to the buttons to attach the pom-poms, which are absolutely brilliant. Take a crochet hook, insert it into the button, push your button onto the inside of your beanie. There's my hook. Grab onto the elastic of the pom-pom and just pull it back through. And wrap the elastic. It is a little bit fiddly at first, around the hooks or the notches on either side of the button, like so. And there's our pom-pom attached. Beanie is done.